I pulled into my neighborhood just as the evening sky was turning a soft orange, already picturing the comfort of my own home after a long day. But as I turned into my driveway, the image in my mind shattered instantly. Sitting there, bold and shiny under the fading sunlight, was a car I knew didn't belong to me. A brand new luxury coupe, sleek black with polished chrome trim, gleamed like it had just rolled out of the showroom. The kind of car that screamed money, at least $90,000 worth of money. My first thought was that I must have turned into the wrong driveway, but no, the familiar cracks in my pavement confirmed it was mine. Someone had just parked their expensive toy on my private property without so much as asking. I sat in my car for a moment, staring at it in disbelief. My driveway isn't a public parking lot, and it's certainly not a safe spot for anyone who thinks the rules don't apply to them. I climbed out slowly, walking a full circle around the car. The spotless paint reflected the sunset, and the interior smelled of brand new leather when I peered through the tinted glass. Whoever owned this thing had to be both proud and careless. I checked for a note, a phone number, some clue that maybe it was an emergency, but there was nothing. That's when it clicked. The car had to belong to someone in the neighborhood, and knowing how things usually went around here, there was only one likely suspect. HOA Karen. Everyone knew her, the self-appointed queen of the homeowners association who treated her word like law. She had a son early 20s, entitled, loud, and spoiled rotten. I had seen him showing off the same car before, revving the engine down our street like he owned the place. Of course, it had to be his. My stomach sank as frustration started simmering. I had worked all day and all I wanted was the comfort of my home. Instead, I was locked out of my own driveway by someone else's arrogance. I glanced at the car one last time, shaking my head. If this was his idea of convenience, he had chosen the wrong driveway to mess with. The thought of dealing with Karen and her son again already gave me a headache, but I knew I couldn't just let this slide. This wasn't a harmless mistake, it was the first move in yet another neighborhood battle waiting to unfold. I marched down the sidewalk toward Karen's house, irritation rising with each step. The glow from her porch light cast a smug sort of warmth over her front door, as if even the house itself knew it was home to trouble. I rang the bell firmly, and after a few seconds, the door swung open to reveal Karen in her usual fashion, arms crossed, chin lifted, and that condescending smirk she seemed to keep ready for any neighborly encounter. "Yes?" she asked, dragging out the word as though I were already inconveniencing her. "Your son's car is in my driveway," I said evenly. "Could you please have him move it? I need access to my own property." Her eyes narrowed slightly, and for a brief moment I thought she might at least apologize. Instead, she sighed dramatically and waved her hand like I was being ridiculous. "It's just a driveway," she replied. "He'll only be there for a little while. You don't really need all that space, do you?" The sheer entitlement in her tone made my jaw tighten. "Actually, yes, I do," I answered firmly. "It's my driveway. I couldn't even park my own car because he decided it was convenient for him." Before Karen could retort, her son appeared behind her. He strolled into view, tall, cocky, wearing a smug grin that matched hers perfectly. "What's the big deal?" he asked, leaning lazily against the doorframe. "That's a $90,000 car. I'm not leaving it out on the street where it could get scratched. Your driveway's safe." I blinked at him in disbelief. "Safe or not, it's not your property," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "You can't just park wherever you feel like it because your car is expensive." He scoffed, clearly amused at the idea that anyone would dare question him. "Relax. It's not like I'm hurting anyone. I'll move it later." That was the last straw. "No," I snapped. "You're moving it now. I shouldn't have to ask twice for someone to stop trespassing on my property." Karen gave a little laugh, sharp and mocking. "You know, Some neighbors actually tried to get along instead of making drama over every little thing. Maybe you should try that. I clenched my fists at my sides, realizing there was no reasoning with either of them. Their arrogance wasn't surprising, but it was infuriating all the same. Without another word, I turned on my heel and walked back to my house, vowing silently that if that car was still there tomorrow, I wouldn't be asking again. The next morning, I pulled open my curtains, half hoping the nightmare would be over. But there it was, the shiny black luxury car still parked squarely in my driveway like it had been permanently installed. My irritation from last night flared instantly into anger. I had been more than patient. I had asked politely. I had given them the benefit of the doubt. But apparently, entitlement ran thicker than common sense in that house. Today, I wasn't going to let it slide. I grabbed my phone, scrolled through my contacts, and dialed the local towing service. My voice was calm but firm when I explained the situation. Unauthorized vehicle parked in my private driveway. The dispatcher didn't hesitate. "We'll send someone right out," she said. Just hearing those words brought a wave of relief. Finally, something was about to be done. Within 20 minutes, the rumble of a heavy-duty tow truck echoed down the street. The driver, a burly man in a faded cap, gave me a nod as he pulled up. "That the one?" he asked, pointing at the gleaming black coupe. "That's the one," I confirmed, crossing my arms. He backed the truck up expertly, lowering the hook as the metallic clank of chains filled the air. Just as the first strap tightened around the car's front wheel, a shout split the quiet morning. "Hey, what the hell are you doing?" Karen's son came flying out of the house, barefoot and red-faced, his voice cracking with panic. He bolted toward the driveway like his life was being dragged away along with the car. "You can't touch my car. Stop it right now." The tow truck driver didn't flinch. "Private property," he said flatly. "Owner requested the tow. Take it up with them." Karen came storming out right behind her son, her robe flapping as she marched over. "This is harassment," she shrieked. "You can't just tow people's cars for no reason. There are HOA rules against this." I stepped forward, my voice steady even though my heart was pounding. "Actually, there are no HOA rules that give you the right to block my driveway. This is my property, and your son's car is trespassing. I asked you to move it, and you refused. So now it's leaving whether you like it or not." The tow truck's hydraulics hissed, lifting the car's front end into the air. Karen's son screamed again, his hands flying to his head as though someone had just torn out his heart. But I only watched, finally feeling a sense of justice as his prized possession was hauled slowly toward the street. Karen's son stood in the middle of the street, practically hopping in place as the tow truck rumbled away with his precious car. His face was crimson, his voice hoarse from yelling, and every other word that spilled out of his mouth was some mix of threats and insults. "Do you know how much that car costs?" he shouted, pointing at me like I'd committed a crime. 90 grand. "You're gonna pay for this? You'll be sorry." Karen, never one to let her son's theatrics go unsupported, joined in immediately. She jabbed her finger at me, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. "You're going to regret this. The HOA will hear about how you abused your power. We have rules in this neighborhood, and you can't just do whatever you want." I crossed my arms and met their fury with calm silence. Deep down, my pulse was racing, but I wasn't about to give them the satisfaction of seeing me flinch. Finally, I spoke, clear and measured. "The only rule that applies here is private property. And last time I checked, my driveway doesn't belong to either of you." Just then, a voice cut through the chaos. "What's going on here?" It was Mr. Thompson, the HOA president, drawn outside by all the commotion. His presence was like a sudden shift in the weather, both Karen and her son immediately tried to spin the story in their favor. She had my car towed for no reason. The son cried, pointing wildly at me. It was parked in my driveway. I countered before Karen could open her mouth. I asked them to move it last night. They refused. It's been sitting there since yesterday. Mr. Thompson's eyebrows shot up, and he turned slowly toward Karen. Is that true? For the first time, Karen faltered. She huffed, crossing her arms tightly, but she didn't deny it. Her son sputtered about lawsuits and emotional distress, but it only made him sound more ridiculous. Well, Mr. Thompson said firmly, she's within her rights. Driveways are private property. If this happens again, you'll be fined by the HOA. The silence that followed was delicious. Karen's son looked like he'd swallowed a lemon, and Karen herself was fuming, her cheeks blotchy with embarrassment. Muttering under their breath, they finally retreated toward their house. Slamming the door behind them as the street grew quiet again, I exhaled, a weight lifting off my shoulders. For once, the entitled duo had been put in their place. My driveway was clear, my peace was restored, and I knew one thing for certain: neither Karen nor her spoiled son would dare test me again.